Weight cutting is, in my opinion, the worst aspect of the sport.
But weight cutting, it's a weird experience because I've seen fighters not get delirious, but start saying things that they wouldn't normally say.
Because you're close to death.
Yeah.
UFC is just waiting for someone to die.
Weight cutting has long been a controversial and dangerous practice in combat sports.
The best way to fight is to cheat and to drain all yourself of fluids and then pretend that you're 160 pounds, then get back on the scale 15 hours later at 185. That's crazy.
In the Ultimate Fighting Championship, fighters routinely undergo extreme measures to shed significant amounts of weight in order to gain a size and strength advantage over their opponents.
So I'm dehydrated for 12, 13, 14 hours. I think it's dangerous.
Why is it dangerous?
Because you have to cut 10 pounds in 4 hours. If you don't, you're screwed.
Today, we explore to what extent weight cutting has impacted the sport of MMA in the past, the struggles fighters still endure, and what, if anything, can be done to improve things for the future.
I'm sitting there cutting weight, and I look like Skeletor, then 14 hours later, I look like He-Man.
Weight cutting is the process of rapidly losing weight, primarily through dehydration, in the days leading up to a fight to meet a specific weight class limit. Fighters then rehydrate and replenish their bodies after the weigh-in, often gaining back 10 to 20 pounds or more within 24 hours. This practice allows them to compete in a lower weight class while retaining their natural size and strength. It is not uncommon for fighters to cut 15 to 30 pounds in the weeks and days before a fight. For example, lightweight fighters often walk around at 170 to 180 pounds during their training camps and weigh in at 155 pounds, while welterweights may naturally weigh 190 to 200 pounds and weigh in at 170 pounds.
Тренироваться у меня было 91 килограмм. Я должен был 29 декабря показать 70 ровно.
Some fighters have even been known to cut as much as 30 to 40 pounds, pushing their bodies to the absolute limit. This drastic weight loss is achieved through a combination of severe calorie restriction, excessive sweating via saunas, hot baths, or rubber suits.
I do a fight camp. I'm starving myself. I'm having to cut, 30, 40 pounds.
Conor McGregor is often used as an example of the benefits one can gain from cutting weight, down to 145 pounds despite his massive frame. It was impossible to miss just how much bigger McGregor was than his fellow featherweights.
The featherweights, they hit like flyweights, so it's nice down there just destroying them and killing that whole division.
Although the process required for Conor to make 145 was undoubtedly brutal.
You look crazy. That's so crazy. Cutting weight is a weird thing. Yeah.
This, combined with an unorthodox style and supreme confidence, led to some of the most impressive finishes in the division's history.
Conor relaxed and smiling. Oh, no!
When considering Conor went 7-0 at featherweight and just 2-3 upon moving up to lightweight, it can seem, at least on paper, that McGregor's efforts to make 145 were truly game-changing. However, it should also be noted that Conor had what many consider one of the best performances in MMA history when he first moved up to fight Eddie Alvarez for the lightweight title.
Beat Eddie Alvarez. Show that. You want to see genius striking with the hands? It's genius shit. Like, you could see Eddie Alvarez just got bewildered by it.
Regardless of what you think may or may not have been responsible for his success at featherweight, it is safe to say that appearing like this on the scales come weigh-in day, it was never going to be sustainable.
I stopped them.
The current downturn in Conor's lightweight efforts could also be down to his extracurricular activities outside of the cage, and many speculate this is the true differentiator between the two versions of Conor.
Partying is weakness for the soul, my friend, so I try and avoid it.
Cuba!
Although being significantly larger than one's opponent can be a big advantage in any combat sport, there is also something to be said for going too far with your downsizing. A prime example of this would be the late Anthony "Rumble" Johnson.
Anthony "Rumble" Johnson!
Known for being one of the hardest hitting and most dangerous men in light heavyweight history.
When I was fighting Anthony Johnson for the belt, 20 seconds into the fight, he hit me. I flew all the way across the octagon.
It boggles the mind to think someone so monstrously large could have ever made 170 pounds. But he did.
Welterweight that's ever walked the face of the
Welterweight.
planet.
Yeah.
When he was a welterweight?
I know, that's
Dude, I saw him in between fights once, and I go, Anthony, how big are you? And he goes, 230 pounds.
When fighting at 170, however, Anthony seemed drained and sluggish compared to the 205-pound version of himself. if he was able to make the weight at all.
Half the time I didn't make it, and half the time I did. And even when I did make it, I felt like I was on death's, door.
But once he made the transition to 205, the performances spoke for themselves, and Rumble felt much better in himself.
Back then you had something to worry about. Hell, I had something to worry about back then, but now it's peaches and creams. I got 10 pounds to lose, just that.
I think it's the most dangerous thing in the world. Those guys today are going to bed 10, 11 over and waking up at like 4 or 5 in the morning and cutting the weight.
The long and short-term health consequences of repeated weight cutting are well documented and alarming. Rapid dehydration and rehydration put immense strain on the body, particularly the kidneys, heart, and brain. Over time, this can lead to chronic health issues such as kidney damage, cardiovascular problems, and hormonal imbalances.
Every system in your body needs water, so if you don't give it water, your kidneys are going to shut down, and that's going to be very painful.
One of the most immediate dangers of weight cutting is the risk of severe dehydration, which can cause dizziness, confusion, and even organ failure. In extreme cases, it can be fatal. In 2013, Brazilian fighter Leandro Souza died while attempting to cut 15 kilograms for a fight. His death was attributed to complications from severe dehydration and kidney failure, serving as a grim reminder of the risks associated with weight cutting. And in 2015, one championship fighter, Yang Jianbing, also died after suffering a fatal heart attack following his own drastic weight cut. Repeated weight cutting can also have a lasting impact on a fighter's cognitive function. Dehydration reduces blood flow to the brain, increasing the risk of concussions and long-term brain damage.
You cut a lot of weight, that fills up your chin.
100%.
This is particularly concerning in a sport like MMA, where fighters are already at risk of head trauma from strikes and submissions.
He's seen here walking into the sauna with a padded suit on. Not only did Till go blind, but he almost died.
But despite these risks, fighters will still take weight cutting to the extreme. Someone who could be credited with perhaps the most extreme weight cut in UFC history is TJ Dillashaw.
But goddamn, dude, I saw you the week of the fight on television.
Yeah.
And I was like, look at his face.
I looked like a tweaker.
In his quest to become a two-division champion, TJ would have to dedicate his whole training camp to cutting a further 10 pounds off his already shredded frame. Although Dillashaw would make the weight, the strain his body was under made him fragile come fight night. Not only would TJ get knocked out, but he would later test positive for EPO, which it transpired he had taken to help his body exert itself to get down to 125.
It's called Procrit. It is a anemia medication that would, help me not only make the weight, but be myself.
The psychological toll of weight cutting cannot be overlooked. The process is physically and mentally grueling, often involving extreme hunger, fatigue, and mood swings. Many fighters describe weight cutting as the hardest part of their job, with some even admitting that they dread it more than the actual fight.
How rough was that cut?
It was horrible, and it made me hate the process because my quality of life sucked. Training camps were torture.
Paddy Pimblett has quickly grown a significant following since joining the ranks of the UFC. But aside from his wild fighting style, something else has garnered the attention of fans: Paddy's weight cut. In November 2016, Paddy fought Julian Erosa for the featherweight title in the main event of Cage Warriors, and after winning the fight seemed to throw up blood in his post-fight interview. However, it would transpire in a future interview that this wasn't in fact blood, but actually junk food that Pimblett had gorged on before the fight.
It wasn't blood. I just didn't listen to anyone at the time and drank a hot chocolate and Ferrero Rocher on the way to the venue.
Now fighting up a weight class, Pimblett still seems extremely sunken in and gaunt on the scale. But perhaps more concerning has been his post-fight eating habits. While this has been a great marketing tool for Paddy, eating pizza in press conferences and completing food challenges on his YouTube channel.
I'd rather be fat and happy than ripped, and these people who are ripped all year round aren't happy. I'm not arsed.
But in his more serious moments, even Pimblett admits that the constant obsession with dieting in MMA has led to him having some form of eating disorder.
I think I've got a little bit. I think I've got a bit of an eating disorder because of MMA. Really,
why? Because of the weight
cuts, the weight cuts, dieting and that. I really genuinely think I've got a bit of an eating disorder.
And while the Liverpudlian is correct when he says it is wrong to fat shame, this doesn't make the genuine concerns others have regarding his weight fluctuation post-fight any less valid.
Weight cutting should not exist. It's terrible for you. It's unnecessary. It's not necessary.
One possible solution that has been suggested is the addition of more weight classes.
It could all be stopped by hydration tests. You're going to fight at what you weigh, and we're going to give you more weight classes.
When Kevin Lee was still a fighter on the UFC roster, he was the loudest advocate for the addition of a 165-pound division.
I'm still pushing for that 165 division. I still think that that's the smarter move to be made. I think something has to be done with weight cutting in MMA.
And many others seem to agree with him that it would be a positive change.
About new weight classes. Kevin Lee wants 165, there's a 195. Are you in favor of that?
100%. Bro, I can be like a 3-4 time world champ. That's dope. I'm with it. A lot of guys, you see guys like Michael Chiesa, Kevin Lee, one of them. Shoot, hell, even Khabib can go 165.
Kevin felt that the drastic cut he was having to make to reach 155 was having a significant impact on his performance, and that he and others would be best served having to make a smaller cut to 165.
Right now, I'm sitting here, I'm 180 pounds. On Saturday, I'll be 156 pounds. It's ridiculous that I have to do that, but that's what we got to do.
Lawyers speak and all the back and forth. I'm the most dangerous man in the world who's willing to weigh in at 165.
Chris Cyborg is someone else who would have greatly benefited from the addition of more weight classes. For the duration of her career, Chris was forced to cut enormous amounts of weight to make the women's 145-pound division due to the lack of any major promotion's willingness to add a women's lightweight roster.
I think that's fair too, and don't forget, you're creating a division. You're not just doing one-off fights where you're grabbing somebody like Cyborg, who's this incredible talent, and then creating something just for her. Well, it's got to be fair for her opponent too.
Whilst it may be the case that there simply are not enough other women talented enough for the UFC who weigh that much, it still kept us from ever seeing one of the best female fighters in history in peak condition. But Dana has consistently pushed back on the idea of creating another division, citing the potential dilution of adjacent weight classes as his reason for rejecting the idea.
I believe that both of those divisions are stacked, and if we create a 165-pound division, it hurts both of those divisions.
While weight cutting is prevalent in the UFC, other organizations have taken steps to mitigate its dangers. One Championship, Asia's largest MMA promotion, has implemented a hydration clause to address the issue.
I don't really remember how it works, but there's some sort of a system where they stop you from weight cutting. Yeah.
Under this system, fighters are required to pass hydration tests in addition to meeting weight class limits. And if a fighter fails the hydration test, they are disqualified from competing in their chosen weight class.
Yeah, so it's really simple. You do hydration and you do weight on the scale, same time. So you can't cut water weight out, right?
Right.
So you have to piss hydrate, get on the scale, literally moments later, like you go in the bathroom, you piss, they test the specific gravity, you go get on the scale.
This approach has supposedly reduced the prevalence of extreme weight cutting in One Championship. Fighters are encouraged to compete at their natural weight, which not only promotes fighter safety, but also ensures more evenly matched contests. However, it has been speculated that these tests might not actually be as foolproof as one might want you to believe.
And a doctor that works with One admits to helping big names cheat the test.
A doctor who claimed to have worked with both One and its fighters publicly came out to explain that it was in fact not very difficult to cheat the hydration test at all.
If you rehydrate with distilled water to make it even less things inside it, you put the fluid back in, but not the electrolytes. So then the concentration of your blood really plummets, and the kidneys actually think you're overhydrated, and they start emptying urine out. It will then filter out more clear urine, and you'll pass the test.
While weight cutting has become ingrained in the culture of MMA, it is clear that the current system is unsustainable and dangerous. The UFC must take proactive steps to protect its athletes, whether by adopting hydration testing, implementing stricter weight class limits, or educating fighters about the risks of extreme weight cutting. Fighter safety should always be the top priority in combat sports. By addressing the issue of weight cutting, the UFC can set a new standard for athlete care and ensure that its fighters can compete at their best without risking their health. Until then, the dangerous practice of weight cutting will continue to cast a shadow over the sport, putting fighters' lives at risk for the sake of a competitive edge.